Welcome everybody, thank you for joining us. I'm Laura Jones, and this session we're going to be speaking with skyrunner Stian Angermund. Stian is a highly accomplished runner of the mountains with many achievements to his name, including no less than 2 gold medals from the 2016 Skyrunning World Championships. In 2019 he enjoyed various top 10 and podium finishes, the highlights of which were 3rd place in the Golden Trail Series and the win at UTMB OCC. He runs for Salomon, is 33 and from Norway. Stian, thank you ever so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Before we sort of jump into the detail and I start to ask you about your training and that sort of thing, could you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you started out on this running pathway that you've been on?
Yeah, like I always enjoyed playing outside, playing soccer when I was a kid, and when I was a teenager, I did biathlon, you know, the ski and shooting, and then like running was a part of the training, and then when I was around 20 I stopped biathlon and didn't do much sport for a couple of years, and then I moved to the city where I live now, Bergen, the west coast of Norway, and then like gradually I started to run more and more and come in love with the sport, and then the rest is just a happy story.
Yeah. So is there any sort of history of running in your family, or is it something that you've seen anybody else do? Are you following anybody's footsteps, or?
My dad, he did some orienteering before I was born. He was very good in reading maps. I never tried orienteering, so and then my cousin, he do some running. So he like back in, I think in 2001, he invited me to do a race here in Bergen, an uphill race. That is, I think it's 860 meter long and 300 vertical meter climb. Quite tough race. So I did that, and yeah, I kind of liked it. So then I am starting to do more and more.
Okay, and what was it that led you to get into ultra running, to running these long distances, and what was it that drove you into that?
Actually, I don't see myself as an ultra runner. I do run like more mountain marathons,
yeah,
but done now let's see, 4 ultra races, but none like super long. I've done like Templier, the Festival des Templiers. That is a race that is 76k long. That's the longest I've been running. And then
only 76.
Only, like, for me it's crazy long, but I heard other I run like 100-mile races and 200-mile races, so compared to that, then that 76 is a sprint. So but for me it's super long.
Yeah. Do you have any ambitions to do any longer distances, or do you think for you where you're at is what you like?
I like to run many races, and I can run more races if I do stick to shorter distance. Yeah. And I kind of like the shorter distance because it's more intense. As ultra is just like surviving. It's a slower pace. So, but I've done the last 4 years. I've done 1 ultra like at the end of the season, and that's a good plan.
Yeah. A lot of these ones at 100-mile people, it's 1 a year, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think they run like super many races. So I like to run more races.
Yeah. Okay. And over the course of your since that race that you did with your cousin, that was you thought you quite enjoyed that,
yeah,
what have been some of the mistakes that you've made along the way? What have you sort of learnt?
Like the first big lessons learning I did was maybe we have a cycling race in Norway called it goes from Trondheim to Oslo. There's 540 kilometer cycling. So we were 3 friends doing that, and the first year was fine, the second year was better, and the third year I didn't prepare at all, and then started and have a total failure. So I have to drop out, and that's the first and only time I've been dropping out of the race. And that was like was no good at all. But then I learned that I should prepare a lot before I do a race. So that's a big lesson.
Yeah, the value of preparing.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So then you've obviously taken that on with your running and make sure that you're always feeling prepared.
I try at least.
Yeah. And what about now that you're that you're established in your skyrunning and in your mountain running, who kind of inspires you? Are there any particular people or books that have really had an impact on you in your running?
Now, for me, it's very important to enjoy the sport. So actually one person had inspired me. It's like not from trail running at all. It's the most lazy football player in Norway ever. He played for like the local team in Bergen called Brann. And he was like super lazy, was not enjoying running. I heard like when they have like running session, he was just hiding in the bushes and went over to the store to buy sausage and just relax. But the cool thing about him is that he was always like playing. He was like enjoying. He didn't like running. If he had the ball and he can play with the ball, then he can run. But yeah, he did football because he loved it and just like playing. And for me, trail running is a little bit of the same. Like it's nice movement, and I play around in the mountain because I like it.
Yeah.
So and then the level of uphill running here in Bergen is quite good. So we have pushed each other to be as good as possible. And I guess like that has a lot to do with my level, because I'm trying to be one of the best uphill runners here in Bergen. So I guess that kind of also inspired me a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's nice when you hear people say that, you know, the reason they love it is because it's as close as you can get to feeling like a kid again, you know. Yeah. when you're running, that feeling of being free.
Yeah, I think like kids, they play in the kindergarten and stuff, and when you get to adult, you can play around in the mountain, just jump from one rock to another, or scramble somewhere, or just when there's a lot of snow, you can slide down the hill. And yeah, I feel like a kid when I'm up in the mountains running.
Yeah, that's nice. Do you have you said that you like to race quite a lot, which is why you've preferred to stick to the relatively shorter distances. Do you have a favorite distance and race type? What's your preference?
Oh, that's hard. Like when I started running races outside Norway, it was uphill races. Like the first race I did outside Norway was Grossglockner Berglauf in Austria. That is 13K with things around 1300 meters up. So it's not so steep, but I really like that kind of race. And then I went over to do some vertical races. I really like those. But then I also started to learn also to run downhill, and that kind of races I think I like that the most, but also uphill races. So but I like when it's technical. I think that is fun. I'm not too fan of flat running, and when it's too runnable, I really enjoy it more when it's like a nice trail up in the mountain where you need to use your arm to get forward.
Yeah. Because one of the things that you're really quite known for is these vertical kilometer races, isn't it? So
yeah,
maybe if you could just explain, you know, to anyone in the audience who might not be familiar with that, what that is.
Yeah, that is like normally quite steep uphill race. That is around mostly it's 1,000 meter climb in less than 5K. I think the shortest one is maybe as short as 1,900 meter long. So then it's like more than 50%. So it's quite steep. But I like when it's not allowed to use poles. I like when it's only running or scrambling.
Right, that's where you really feel that you excel.
Yeah, I'm not too fan of poles. Like I can use it when I'm ski, but right. not when I'm running or walking.
Okay.
No. Not for me.
They really divide opinion, don't they? Polls. It's yeah.
And I think it's about the culture. I've seen, like, when I've been running down in Chamonix, like the whole families with small kids, everyone is walking around with walking sticks. And then, but in Norway, it's like the old people using this. So so it's about the culture. But I see now the ultra running is starting to be bigger in Norway, and there are more and more people using the poles. So yeah.
Do you ever use them?
I have one, but I tried it one time. Like, no, it's not my thing.
Okay, well, at least you tried.
Yeah.
Okay, so thinking about 2020, what are you going to be focusing on for the 2020 season?
I think it's going to be much of the same I've done like the 2 last seasons with the Golden Trail series. I really like those races and the level. Yeah, it's quite fun. So I think I'm gonna do that and hopefully go to the final in Argentina.
Oh, right. Okay. And do you have sort of thinking longer, long term about your long-term goals? Do you have any sort of particular goals, things that you'd like to achieve?
No, I just take 1 year after another and just enjoy. If I'm not enjoying, then I won't do the sport.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do what I like.
Yeah.
And focus on that.
Stay healthy and loving it.
Yeah, I try. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is ask you a little bit more about your training. So for example, if we do think about the UTMB OCC race, which we know that you went on to win, can you talk us through in some detail sort of how your training looked leading up to that race, how you prepared for it, obviously to enter in the form that you did to win?
Yeah, like this year, like there was the Golden Trail series was the main focus. So I did like I'm not so used to long races. I had like a couple of long runs. I had like a 50K long run where I grew up in the east side of Norway. I think that's the longest training run I ever done.
Right.
So I did that, and I did some kind of road running because UTMB is not like trail running; it's like more road running. So so I did a couple of that to get used to like running not technical terrain.
Yeah. So do you are you self-coached or do you have a running coach?
I am my own coach. Like,
do it yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do discuss training with friends.
Yeah.
So then I get some tips and we help each other. So, but I do train myself.
So so you plan all your own sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so
go on. Sorry.
No, well, I do like some training runs with my club. Like we did a couple of hours ago. We have flat running intervals, like in threshold pace, and it's like I like to do something with friends. So that's nice.
Yeah, it can be a bit lonely, can't it? Sometimes.
It can be like in a busy week. I often do like training before and after work to be able to do as much training as I want. So then it's often alone. Yeah.
What sort of volume do you, how many miles do you run when you're sort of in your peak weeks of training?
I have no idea. Like I don't, but I don't know distance. I normally run in mountains, and it could be like, I don't know, I can run 3 hours and it's 15K. Mm-hmm. But then it's also maybe like 15 or 2,000 meter vertical up and down. So it takes some time. So I actually have no idea how far I run. Yeah. It's so interesting listening to how different people take different approaches to their, to their training. It's really fascinating. Do you do any different, any cross training or any strength training in addition to running? I do some strength training. I need to do that because if I'm not, I think I would be much more injured. So I do like once a week. I do training with what can I call it? The Olympic people here in Norway. So we have like 1 hour basic training. We do like simple exercises, but really focus on like especially the hip position to be in the right. You have to be in the right position and do some exercises. And then I do training with some friends and my own. But I'm not too fan of indoor training, so it's going a little bit up and down how much I do it. It depends on the motivation.
Yeah, quite. A lot of people that I've spoken
but I feel
said that they've now that once they sort of get into their 30s, they realise that they need to do it. They can't neglect it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, in your 20s, you can get away with it.
Yeah, but I feel like when I'm do some exercises before I go out to run, like to wake up the core muscles, I feel I run way more stable and I have way more control when I'm running.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
I really feel it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so on the day of the race, because it's quite I was reading a bit of a race recap about UTMB, and it was quite interesting to hear that you overtook the Chinese runner that had led from the outset at I think it was about 35k. You came out of
maybe something like that.
Yeah, and then you held first place then until the finish. So I was interested to know whether that was kind of your strategy paying off, that you had sort of started more conservatively, which meant, or was it that his strategy hadn't been that great and actually he wasn't able to, hold his position?
No, but I think like when you run a race, it's the person with the best average pace that's going to win the race. So for me to do as good as possible, I need to, like, the first 1,000 vertical meters should not be the fastest one. And I think OCC is around 3,500 vertical meters up and down or something. So for me, it's just I'm planning not to run too fast in the beginning. So that was my strategy. And then I saw like most of the others were just sprinting off from the beginning. Like the first hill, I don't remember the name of where we started. We started with an O, but out from that city, I heard like all the others were breathing so heavily around me, and I couldn't hear my own breathing. And then I saw like some of the others passing me, and I told them, no, slow down. It's a long race. It's not good to run too fast in the beginning. And actually, some of them listened to me. And then when we had done like a couple of hours, I just was passing people because people were dying everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but I like the team manager in Salomon, Greg Valet, he was there to support me. And he told me at one point that I should try to close the gap, and I was around 6 minutes behind. And in top of the climb there, I was with the leader. So I catch 6 minutes in that climb, and then he was the Chinese guy was it Japanese? Was Chinese?
Chinese, yeah.
Chinese. He was sprrinting so fast in the downhill, so I said, "Yeah, go. I don't care." And then we met at the aid station of in Valosin, and then he was tired in the after that, so then I could run away.
Yeah, and that was when all of your training and your skills with your mountain climbing really, all those mountains that you got in your legs really paid off.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But it was hard to run like the flat bits over there because there was a lot of flat running in that race.
Yeah.
So that was way harder. So, but the uphills and downhills was okay.
Yeah. And obviously you went on to, did you think when you were standing on the start line that, that you might be able to win it?
There was a lot of people like taking selfies with me, and then a lot of interviews and stuff. So I guess like someone has an expectation that I should win. But I didn't feel like any pressure on the start. Like I didn't know all the other runners. I have no idea about the level. So I was just focusing on my race.
Yeah. Again, that's interesting, because I've spoken to some people who spend a lot of time before races researching who else is going to be running, and they know who's on the start line, and they're watching other people, and it's interesting to know, just to hear you say that actually you just turned up thinking about your race, and not knowing who else was going to be there.
Yeah, there are so many runners, and I don't know who everyone is. So, but when I run the Golden Trail series, there's more of then I start to run. I know most of the people, so they're like, you kind of have more idea who is strong in the beginning and who is stronger further out in the race and stuff.
Yeah, people will like you say, be asking for the selfies. People know who you are now.
Yeah.
And what about your nutrition and your hydration? For example, let's talk about OCC, which, like you say, is quite a long race for you. What do you do in terms of your nutrition and your hydration on race day?
Now, I did use gels and kind of energy drink. Like I become now an ambassador for Moon Valley, so I used Moon Valley in the soft flask, and that's give like a lot of energy, and then like different kind of gels when I was running. And then I was I think I tried some of the things they had in the aid station, because that was a lot of good stuff. Yeah,
that's good. It's interesting that some people like things like pizza, when they're these long distances. Some of the things people have told me.
But then there's like then you run way longer when you eat pizza.
Yeah, it's like a picnic then when on these ultra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like so a couple of weeks ago when I did the race in Portugal, Pisau Extreme, that is way more technical. It's super cool race. That is 65k with 6,500 meter up and down.
Yeah.
And all technical. And there I did for the first time in a race, I went for only bars, no gels, because like I was running in 10 hours or something. So that works actually quite fine.
Yeah. So you felt like you wanted something solid.
Yeah, I think for that many hours, maybe I could have used gels, but I was liking to have like a little bit better food to eat. So, and also on the aid station there, they have like so much good food, but I went for the eggs. It's a hard-boiled egg on most of the aid station. That was actually very good.
Yeah. Some people like go for the really salty, they crave the really salty stuff, don't they? Savory.
Yeah, someone likes super salty and others more of the sweet stuff. And they actually had some meat over there at the aid station. And some of my friends that did the race, he was like so into meat, so he went for meat on all the aid station. I couldn't have done that.
No,
it's too hard for the stomach.
Yeah, that's such a personal thing. That's one of my favorite questions actually to ask, and to hear the answers that people give about what they like on race day, because it's such a personal thing, isn't it?
It is, and you need to try it before the race. It's like it's no good to show up on the race and like trying new stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
it's a part of the training, I guess, especially for ultra, that you do trying to eat different kind of stuff during training. And like for a lot of us, it's hard to eat when you push yourself. So I guess like a good idea is just to put a lot of thing you think you might want to eat during race, put that in a bag, then run for plenty of hours and open the bag and see what you want to do, want to eat.
Yeah.
And I guess like it's important to also have eat something that your brain wants, like you feel it's easy to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because definitely, I mean, that can sort of make or break a race, can't it? If you've not trialed it out before and you have something that doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, then the race is not going to turn out good.
No, quite. Okay, so one of the things that you're really sort of renowned for, and you've obviously got a real skill at, is skyrunning. You know, this running up
and down hills.
Yeah, these crazy big mountains. Can you? Is there anything sort of practical that you can share with the audience? Any tips that you can give for what it takes to get really good, not just at running up, but the downhill part as well? Because, you know, a lot of people have quite a mental block with what it takes to run downhill.
Yeah, to run downhill actually learned like the last couple of years. I remember the first up and downhill race I did was in Dolomite Sky Race, now called Dolomites Run. I did that in 2014, I think. That was my first up and downhill race, and the uphill was okay. It was hard because it was high altitude, but the downhill I actually felt I was standing still and people just passing me on both sides like super fast. That was quite scary. But then I've been trying to learn to run more in higher pace in downhill. And actually a friend of mine and we have done some downhill intervals. So we have done, we find like a technical downhill because we like when it's technical. And we just, on the ground, just mark like, here is going to stop the interval. And then we hike up maybe like a couple of 100 meters. And then we see, okay, here we start. And then we do an easy jog down. And then, okay, that was the first interval. We walk up. Okay, so, and then the second time, okay, we're going to beat that time. And then we're going to continue that and then run faster and faster. And the last intervals, we actually run super fast. Actually, we feel we run super fast. I don't know how fast it actually is, but yeah, it is super fun training.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing because like you get to know the trail. So you dare to run faster because you know it. And then you practice with higher pace than you normally do. When you run downhill, so I think it's actually very good training. And I think if you've done that in that hill, and then you can find another downhill to do another interval, and I think that will help you when you run to run as fast as possible in the downhills.
Yeah, it's that scary getting over that feeling that you're gonna, topple.
Yeah. But then, like, when you do this downhill intervals, you start, like, the first one is super slow. It's like an easy long run pace. But then it's like, it's safe. And next time you run just a little bit faster. You don't push yourself much, but then, like, you get to know the trail a little bit more. And then it's only just you that decide the pace. So then I think it's more, can feel more safe. Yeah. So I think it's for people that are a little bit scared of downhill or want to improve their downhill, I think that's one good way of doing the downhills.
Yeah, that's
and of course, like, you should try to look more ahead, not look on your feet, because when you look at the feet, things coming towards you super fast. So if you can try to look like 3, 4, 5 steps ahead, I think that will help you a lot. And of course, body position, that you don't lean backwards too much, you're trying to lean a little bit more forward. And yeah.
Yeah, and cross your fingers.
Yeah, but if you say to yourself like, "Oh, I'm scared of this downhill," then and I'm scared of falling and stuff, then it's not going to turn out good. You need to tell yourself that you're tough and you're gonna nail this downhill. Yeah, then you will run so much better. So don't cross your fingers, just go for it.
It's like we were saying before about children, isn't it? When you see children running down a hill and they're just, because they're not tense, they're relaxed, aren't they? And they're just running. Yeah.
They don't think about consequence, and most of the time it goes okay. So
most of the time he says.
Yeah.
Okay, and now thinking about the kind of mental side of this kind of running, because obviously there are times when it's really hard, and it's not always it's not always the physical, it's not necessarily the pain in your legs that's making you want to stop. How do you deal with the mental side of it and keep strong?
Yeah, like this year I've been struggling a lot because I had very tight muscles around the hip. So I feel like a lot of races, like the result has been okay, but I have not finished with a good feeling in most of my races this year. So then I've been struggling with a lot of negative thoughts. But I'm trying to think, like, when I'm don't feel good in a race, I'm focusing on that, like, that maybe I'm not the only one that suffers now. I guess like most of the others also suffering. So hopefully I will try to be the one that handles the suffering best. Like you have to think that I'm not the only one that struggle, and that's actually, it's okay.
Yeah, the kind of races that you're doing,
yeah.
I think most of the field at some point probably feel, this is really hurting. Why am I doing this?
Exactly. But I also think, like, if you have some really goals that if you're for a race or for training or whatever, put some goals that do something about your emotions. Like if you almost start crying if you think about your goal, if it's like winning or set a personal best or whatever, just something that means something for you. There's like a really a special goal for yourself. I think that will help you. Like when you're really tired and want to lay down, if you think about that goal, then you know what to do.
Remember why you're doing it all the time, I suppose.
Exactly. But like to make a goal for yourself, you don't need to tell everyone, but a goal that really matters to you. I think that is a good way of keep you pushing when you're tired.
Yeah, because it is hard, isn't it? When it's when it starts to, and when you get tired and it starts to get uncomfortable, and if you can feel yourself backing off, it's
exactly.
Yeah, it's hard then to stop that.
Yeah, and it's the way how you talk with yourself. Like if it's tired and you say, "Oh, I'm tired," of course then you're gonna become more tired. Like so, but if you tell yourself that this is awesome training or something, like in a training run, like you can say that my competitors are tired now, so they will stop now. That's why I will keep moving.
So, are you a very competitive person? Does that, because like I said, because I've read the account about UTMB, so I'd read that earlier, and I know that the guy that finished in second place was only about a minute behind you, wasn't he? So he was quite
something like that.
Were you aware
I
that
have no
are
idea.
you very I just wondered whether you sort of could feel him breathing down your neck and that was what was driving you forward, or whether it was just competition within yourself.
No, I was on the last top of the last climb. I turned around and I couldn't see him, and I guess that he was like at least 4 minutes behind me, and I think he were actually 4 minutes behind me because I could see like a couple of minutes behind in the course. And then I decided I will not like destroy my legs in the downhills, because in the OCC, like it's the downhill is not technical. And I hate running in road running downhill because it destroys my legs. So I decided I will not, destroy my legs. I just like doing an easier jog downhill. And then when I crossed the finish line, he finished just after me. So I was quite shocked. Like, oh, there he is.
Well, so you could have just said, "Oh yeah, it was perfectly. I planned that perfectly."
No, I didn't plan at all.
Oh yeah. Okay, so now can you just tell us if there's anything in particular in terms of clothing and gear that you really like?
When I run races, I run with Salomon equipment because I love it and I'm sponsored by it. But for me, when I'm I enjoy to run in technical terrain, and when I run in technical terrain, I like shoes that is like not the thickest midsole, like a little bit thinner, so I'm closer to the ground. That is something I really like. So I've been running races with the Sense shoe of Salomon, like in Marathon Mont Blanc, and then in the OCC, I was running with the prototype of maybe a new model for next year. And then I'm running with the Amphib, like in Pesao Extreme, the ultra race I did now a couple of weeks ago. And I also used that shoe for, I think I used it for the Ring of Steel and in Nepal when we were running there in the Golden Trail Series final. So yeah, thin midsole, it's a good thing. And then I like if I can like in most races, we need we have a mandatory equipment. So I always try to squeeze that in the belt instead of running with the bag. But some races is too much. I need to have it in the bag because I like to be the upper body to be more free. And this year, most of the races been like very hot conditions. I'm struggling a little bit when it's warm. So then I like to not have a bag to let as much air as possible out from the upper body. Normally I don't run with sunglasses, but maybe a cap to protect from the sun. And normally like it white because that reflects the sun. And also I can take the cap off and then put in the river and take the water on my head.
Yeah.
So yeah, stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Just out of interest, what's been your this isn't on my piece of paper, but I'm just interested to ask, what's been your favorite race? It doesn't, not necessarily because you won, but just if you had to pick one?
Oh, I can't decide. It's so much. It's so many good races. No, it's many. Like Segama is one of them. Not only because I have good memories and won the race, but I like the atmosphere there and it's awesome course. The Ring of Steel I really like, mostly because of it has maybe one of the best courses. It's short, intense, and it's a lot of climb.
Yeah, I've seen some photographs from the Ring of Steel, and it just looks incredible. The scenery that you run through.
It's so nice. Normally it's rain, it's beautiful, it's perfect. I like to run in rain.
Yeah.
This year was actually quite warm.
Yeah.
And then we have some good races here in Norway as well. Up in Tromsø, they have during the Tromsø Sky Race, they have Blåmann vertical. There's a super nice vertical with some scrambling, and it's not allowed to use the poles, so it's perfect. And then in a place like 3 hours away from where I live, they have an uphill race called Storhaven Up. I haven't done that race the last years because it's colliding with Segama. That's a bummer. So next year it will also collide with Segama. So hopefully the year after I can do that again. But that is a super nice uphill race in beautiful terrain. I was supposed to do a race in Italy this year called the La Vaia Sky Race, but I was tired from the OCC, so ending up not doing it. But the organizer there is super nice, and the course is really beautiful. And it is in Italy, but it goes on the border of Switzerland.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, like Bissau Extreme that I did a couple of weeks ago is also like super nice. And also like wonderful organizers. And there I was with several friends. So it was more than just a race. We had like a super nice time together with friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't decide. It's too many.
That's your a short list of favorites.
Yeah, and also like maybe it can be a favorite. We have some friends that organize a sky race in Bergen called Bergen Sky Race. So we had the test race this year, and it was super fun. The only thing, the Bergen set the heat record that weekend, so the people suffered so much. But hopefully we'll have a bigger and not too warm race next year.
Yeah, so that'll be one that perhaps people in the audience can put it on their calendar, maybe. Yeah,
Bergen Sky Race, check it out. Hopefully we can put on the date of the race before New Year's Eve, before next year. So, but I think it will be maybe at the end of May. Okay. Well, maybe once we've we'll be able to put it in the links, perhaps once we finish the when cool. Yeah. Do that. Okay, so we talked earlier about your training, and you don't use a coach, you do it all yourself. So after a race, do you have a sort of process that you go through to kind of analyze your performance, and how do you kind of use it to learn going forward? Let's see. I've talked to like some friends about the race and trying to analyze, but maybe I should be better at it.
I think some people are some people are really interested in the data, and you know,
I'm looking at more or less I can compare with the others. Then I can see like how my level is compared to them. Like I don't think you can compare too much with previous years, because the conditions is changing from year to year. That's the cool thing about mountain racing. It's you can't compare times because it's always different. So you should not focus too much about the time. But I do compare with the other I run with, and I can see how I do on different uphills and downhills, different sections on the race. So I do some of that.
Yeah, that's the best thing, I think. Like you say, because it's going to be different on any given day with the kind of races you do. I suppose it's more just on how you felt at any particular.
Yeah.
You know, if you knew that at 35 kilometers you felt, you know, like you had more running in you, then that's obviously something's going right.
Maybe mountain running is harder to be objective.
Yeah.
Because you can't compare the times, like in track and field and stuff like that. Then you know all the times and can always compare. Yeah,
you can compare two road marathons. You know, they're similar. Yeah. Whereas mountains, I completely understand. Okay, so I've got a few sort of closing questions to finish. First one, I'm interested to know, what do you think are 3 characteristics that help you to be a successful skyrunner, ultra runner?
Right, 3 kind of reasons why I'm
my level. 3 kind of characteristics, 3 things that you know. So a lot of people say, like, being stubborn when it's ultra running for long distance. They think stubbornness is important. But what 3 characteristics do you think help, you know, in this sport?
No, I think one thing, I'm like my emotion, I'm quite happy when I run normally, and I think that helps a lot. I think you're right. Positivity. Positive. I think I'm a positive person, so I think that's one. And then I kind of like to push. I like uphill, so pushing the uphills. I'm not sure. I haven't thought about it before. Courage on the downhills, I would say. Maybe that. and that slight, maybe a little bit able to take a bit of leave of your senses. You know, have to not a death wish. That's not right. But you know, you have to. You've got to be brave, haven't you? Kind of. Okay, so if you could give your, you know, when you first started out, that you know, when you were first starting with your running, when you went and did that race with your cousin, if you could go back now, knowing what you know now, and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? Started running even earlier. Because it's so fun. So like, I started running quite late. I've when I did that race, I was maybe 15, but I was not into running until like maybe, I don't know, I started to do more running like less than 10 years ago. Now I'm 33, but I didn't run much 10 years ago. I started maybe 6-7 years ago to do more running, more training. So maybe I should start earlier. Started early. But the kinds of running that you're doing, it does seem to be that it's people of your age and even older that dominate the sport. It's, you know, I don't know whether it's you know, particularly the long distances, people don't seem to come into their own until they've got that bit of life experience and under their belt. Maybe. You know, I just think there's all these things that sort of come together, particularly on these long races, that you need to be really good at it. And it's not always the 20-something year olds that are doing it. It seems to be the slightly older ones. Yeah, in ultra distance, it looks like you need to be a little bit older.
Yeah.
But I also see like in the shorter distance, you can also do good when you're older.
Yeah.
Like the Ring of Steel this year, the guy that was second and third, that is those guys are Mark Lauenstein and Max King, and they are close to 40, both of them.
Yeah.
And they were second and third in that race, and that is a little bit more than 3 hour running.
Yeah.
So I was actually quite positive, like so happy to see that. Okay, I can do this for several more years.
Yeah, quite. And you've Ring of Steel, you've won every year, is that right?
No. Ring of Steel, I won it. I think I maybe won it 2 times, and then Kilian won it, and then Nadir won it this year.
So I knew you'd won it a couple of times. Yeah, first 2 years you won it, didn't you? I think.
Yeah.
And
then the level went off, and I didn't perform that good. So so I will try again next year.
You should say that you've just let somebody else have a chance.
Yeah, okay, maybe it was that.
Yeah. You can't keep winning it. You've got to let somebody else have a go.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, now what about if there's anybody watching who has never attempted any ultra running or sky running, and they're thinking about it? What would be your advice to them?
Don't push the long distance too early. I see a lot of ultra runners. They're like, it doesn't look good. They're like pushing around way too long. They're just suffering for so many hours. I think it's better to go for a shorter distance that you actually can race. And then if you want to go longer later on, then do that. But I think it's good to have like some races you can actually race. You can push a little bit instead of just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But do what you think is fun. That's why everyone should do this. It's because it's fun.
Yeah. It's important not to lose sight of that, isn't it? That's why we do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, quite. And like you say, if it's going by your standards, if you're not able to cartwheel over the finish line, then you haven't had enough fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. I think that just about brings us to the end of the session. So really, thank you so much for joining us, Stian. It was really interesting to chat to you, and I love the fact that you've got such a positive outlook and you're smiling all the time. It's really nice. So everyone, you go and check out Stian online. We'll put the links in, and to this amazing race that you'll be able to sign up for, that he's going to be organising in. And thank you everybody for joining us.